It was May 19th, 1962. A woman walked onto a stage in New York City. The crowd went completely silent. She was wearing a dress, but not just any dress. It was so tight she had to be sewn into it. It was covered in 2,500 hand-stitched crystals. And when she opened her mouth to sing, the world stopped. That woman was Marilyn Monroe. And that song was Happy Birthday, sung to the President of the United States. That single moment lasted less than 2 minutes. But the dress she wore that night? It just sold for $4.8 million. This is the story of how a piece of fabric became one of the most valuable objects on Earth. The dress was designed by a man named Jean Lewis. He was one of Hollywood's most famous designers at the time. Marilyn Monroe came to him with a very specific request. She wanted to look like she was wearing nothing at all. Jean Lewis created a dress made of a fabric so thin it was almost invisible. It was flesh-colored, the same tone as Marilyn's skin. Then 2,500 rhinestone crystals were hand-stitched onto it one by one. Each crystal was placed perfectly to catch the light. The dress had no lining, no structure inside, just Marilyn and the crystals. It took weeks to make, and it cost $12,000 in 1962. That is equal to roughly $120,000 in today's money. But nobody could have predicted what it would become worth. The event was a birthday gala for President John F. Kennedy. It was held at Madison Square Garden in New York. 15,000 people were in the audience that night. Marilyn Monroe was the final performer. She was famously late. The announcer introduced her 3 times before she appeared. When she finally walked out, the crowd erupted. She stood at the microphone. She took a breath, and she sang Happy Birthday in a way nobody had ever heard before. Slow, breathy, intimate. Like she was whispering a secret to the most powerful man in the room. Peter Lawford, who introduced her that night, called her the late Marilyn Monroe. Nobody in that room knew it would be one of her last major public appearances. Marilyn Monroe died just 77 days later. She was 36 years old. After Marilyn died, the dress was kept in her estate. For years, nobody knew exactly where it was. Then in 1999, actress Debbie Reynolds bought it at auction. She paid $1.26 million for it. At that time, it was the most ever paid for a piece of clothing. Debbie Reynolds kept it in her personal collection for years. She built an entire museum of Hollywood memorabilia. But in 2016, Debbie Reynolds passed away. Her collection was sold, and the dress went to auction again. This time, Ripley's Believe It or Not bought it. They paid $4.8 million. In one generation, the dress went from $12,000 to $4.8 million. That is an increase of 40,000%. No stock, no property, no gold has ever done that. So, why does a dress cost $4.8 million? It is not because of the fabric. It is not because of the crystals. It is because of the story attached to it. Every object in the world has a base value, what it is made of. But some objects carry a second kind of value. The value of a moment in history. The value of a person who can never be replaced. The value of something that can never be recreated. Marilyn Monroe cannot be brought back. That exact night cannot be repeated. That exact feeling in that room cannot be copied. The dress is the only physical object that was there. And that is why someone paid $4.8 million for it. Fashion historians call this provenance. Where did this object come from? Who owned it? What moment did it witness? The stronger the story, the higher the price. This is not just a story about one dress. It changed how the world thinks about fashion. Today, people buy vintage celebrity clothing as an investment, just like buying a house or buying gold. A jacket once owned by Michael Jackson sold for $308,000. Princess Diana's wedding dress is estimated to be worth over $10 million today. These are not just clothes. They are pieces of history. And history, the real kind, only becomes more valuable over time. The next time you see a dress on a runway and think it is ridiculous, remember the story. Because you never know which piece of fabric is going to witness a moment that changes the world. Marilyn Monroe wore that dress for less than 5 minutes. But it has outlived her by over 60 years. And it is still growing in value every single day. That is the real power of fashion. Not the fabric. Not the crystals. The story. If you found this interesting, subscribe. Every week, I bring you stories from the world of fashion that most people never hear. See you in the next one.